Welcome to AutoSens, the world's leading community for ADAS and autonomous vehicle technology development. We create best-in-class events, training, and information for the purpose of connecting the global community of engineers, scientists, and other automotive industry experts. We are joined today by Kirsten Matheus, Senior Expert for In-Vehicle Networking Technologies at BMW Group. Kirsten is ultimately responsible for the strategy for in-vehicle technologies at BMW. And Kirsten, welcome to AutoSens, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Carl, for the introduction.
Kirsten, tell us about your role at BMW, being responsible for the strategy for in-vehicle technologies. Take us through your typical day-to-day.
Being responsible for the strategy actually means I have to think about 10 years ahead of time. So I have to identify needs where I think my colleagues will require new functionalities in respect to in-vehicle networking technologies. And I need to do that about 10 years ahead of time because I'd like standardized technologies. So if you have to initiate a standardization project, you have to standardize and you have to have parts being built based on that standard. And then about 5 years before we want to go into production, we need to test those parts and get ready. So it means very, very early to have an idea and to feel what requirements are needed when. And that's not as obvious. 10 years ahead of time, right? Who knows the future? So you might not always be spot on with being ready when it's needed, but it sort of needs to be in the range of a year that sort of fits. And if you have 10 years ahead to plan, there's actually not really a day-to-day routine because it really means where are you in the process? Is a standardization project being initiated, or is it one that's already running? Are you looking at getting parts qualified? So wherever you are, it's actually quite a different job.
Kirsten, the relationship between Ethernet and automotive. What is the significance there? Why is it important that we have this relationship between Ethernet and automotive?
So Ethernet has existed now for, I think, 50 years when it was invented. And it has proliferated across almost all industries we can think of, telecommunication, industrial automation, of course, data center, where it comes from, and our computers. And the car industry is actually one of the last I would say one of the latest or one of the last industries to actually adopt Ethernet. And that in itself is a little surprising. So the car industry had started with inventing all the communication technologies they needed themselves, and with ever more electronics getting into the car, ever more networking being required in the car because each tier one produces another electronic control unit. They need to talk with each other. Networking became more important in the capabilities of the communication technologies. And then if you think networking, Ethernet is the ultimate networking technology that allows you to be used in application independent. So that's why it started late, but becomes ever more important when the cars moving towards the autonomous driving. And that's where we are now, need the functionalities to be more flexible, faster in our reaction times and everything we need, what Ethernet provides to us. So,
Kirsten, if automotive was one of the last industries to adopt this, what are the challenges then when it comes to introducing Ethernet into automotive? If so many other industries have already adopted it, why the hesitancy in automotive?
I think in the end, it's every new communication technology you introduce into the car industry is actually a challenge. And part of that is that you have a huge it's not just the car manufacturer who needs to understand the technology and put it in the requirement specification. It's the whole industry. It's the tier ones, it's the tools and test vendors, it's the semiconductor suppliers, everybody, the whole chain has to be part of this. So even if I work in the in-vehicle networking department, so in a central department, we're a service provider to our groups. But if somebody else is responsible for functionality for the customer, for example, the parking functionality or any other ADAS functionality, those guys are interested in the functionality. For them, in-vehicle communication is infrastructure they don't want to concern themselves with. So they want the innovation in the functionality. And I have to make their lives as easy as possible to sort of adopt the new technologies with the least conceptual breaks that I have to think about. And there, of course, Ethernet is a new technology. It's completely different from what we had before. So there are often hesitations to say, yeah, but isn't that too complex? Isn't that too much? Do I really need all this? Can't I do it as I've always done? Simply because, it's totally understandable. Your focus is somewhere else if you're responsible for functionality for the customer. Still, from an overall perspective, from the car manufacturer who has to think of the complete system, Ethernet is the way forward.
We're speaking with Kirsten Matheus, senior expert for in-vehicle networking technologies at BMW Group, ultimately responsible for the strategy for in-vehicle technologies for BMW, displaying at AutoSens, be exhibiting in Brussels. And you have a proof of concept, Kirsten. So this proof of concept that you'll be showing to our attendees in Brussels, why is this proof of concept important for an automotive manufacturer?
Mm-hmm. So what we're showing in Brussels is we're showing a mix of technologies, the ASA Motion Link and Ethernet IEEE 802.ch, multi-gigabit Ethernet. And we're showing that both can be used in the same network to connect cameras and displays. So that was a setup where we wanted to evaluate and compare how the two technologies actually work on the same network, what are the drawbacks or the advantages of one or over the other. And that concerns power consumption, also just the way, how difficult is it actually to make everything work and work together. And for us, it's really, really important. We typically don't have a relationship with the tier twos, with the semiconductor suppliers, but it's the tier ones that buy the parts from the semiconductor suppliers. So we often have to rely on what we are being told on how things work, how good they are, how power efficient they are, how easy to implement or whatever. And we wanted to get a feel ourselves on how does it actually work and how do slides and forecasts and product roadmaps match with what we can really see. And that was very, very educating, I have to say. So, and we are very happy to share what we've learned and how we're sort of advancing and moving on. So the proof of concept is live. Whenever we get new products and new functionalities, we test them immediately. So we want to share that.
You're the author of two books, Automotive Ethernet and Automotive High-Speed Communications Technologies. Both books are available on Amazon. Kirsten, tell us about the books and the writing process, and just tell us what it took to get these two books published.
So the first, the Automotive Ethernet book, that's now available in the 3rd edition. So we've already started quite some years back. And part of the motivation was to really educate not only the automotive industry about Ethernet, but also the Ethernet industry about automotive. So I wanted to bridge the two worlds and sort of fill the gaps, which I felt in the knowledge that I was experienced by all this talking and trying to get the strategy across the industry. The second book, the Automotive High-Speed Communication book, focuses on sensor and display applications. And that's also where the main difference is. This is now here, the focus is not on the network. Here, the focus is really on how do I make the application work. There's actually surprisingly little overlap between the books. There is, of course, some electromagnetic compatibility you have independent on whatever you use, right? So there's some overlap, but not as much as you might expect. And that is a latest book, of course, that only came out in November last year. So that's very new.
Those books again, Automotive Ethernet and Automotive High-Speed Communications Technologies, both are available through Amazon. Speaking with Kirsten Matheus, who is the senior expert for in-vehicle networking technologies at BMW Group, ultimately responsible for the strategy. Kirsten, thank you for being with us today, sharing your expertise and your thought leadership. I look forward to seeing you in Brussels and coming by your booth and seeing that proof of concept. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for the nice chat.
For more in-depth interviews like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow AutoSens on LinkedIn. For more information on our world-class events, visit auto-sense.com. That's auto-sense.com. In Detroit, on behalf of AutoSens, I'm Carl Anthony.